She was arguably the fastest woman who ever lived. With her unmatched speed and iconic style, including long painted nails and one-legged speed suits, she was impossible not to notice. Nearly 4 decades have passed since she broke two world records, and no one has caught her yet. Today is Thursday, July 17th, 2025, and on this day in 1988, Florence Griffith-Joyner, the sports and style icon known around the world as FloJo, celebrated breaking the women's 100-meter world record in an incredible time of 10.49 seconds. I'm your host, Running Up That Hillary, and you are listening to Today in Running History. Okay, so the elephant in the room. Some of y'all may have caught during the intro or when looking at the title of this episode that I refer to Griffith-Joyner celebrating her new world record on July 17th, not breaking it. And to be completely honest, that is because I wrote the date down wrong when I was originally compiling my calendar of running events to cover. And it turns out she actually set the record on July 16th, 1988. And at the time of me writing this episode, my other July 16th episode has already been taped and scheduled to post, so I am not going to cancel that one. But I also really want to tell y'all about FloJo and her incredible and unmatched performance at the 1988 U.S. Olympic track and field trials in Indianapolis. And obviously, we can assume that she was celebrating on July 17th, 1988, because wouldn't you celebrate being the fastest woman in the world? I would celebrate attending the Olympic trials, much less competing in them, not to mention winning. So, okay, now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's talk about FloJo. Florence Griffith was born in the Watts neighborhood of Los Angeles in 1959, the seventh of 11 children. Her dad was an electronics engineer and her mom was a seamstress. According to her mother, Florence skipped walking and went straight to running, zooming around the family home in her baby walker so quickly that her parents nicknamed her Lightning. By the time her organized track career began around the age of 7, Florence was known as Dee Dee within her close-knit family. This was a year after her parents' divorce and her mom had moved the kids to a public housing project where money was tight, but the sibling bond was even tighter. Though she was incredibly shy and insecure, Dee Dee was winning national titles by the time she was barely in her teens and already dreaming about being a star. It was also as a teenager that her interest in style and fashion began, and she convinced the other girls on her high school track team to wear tights to give their boring uniforms some flair and personality. When a teacher asked her what she wanted to be, Dee Dee said, "Everything. I want to be everything." After high school, Griffith ran track at Cal State Northridge, but had to drop out to help support her family. She returned to college the next year, this time at UCLA, and competed in the 1980 U.S. Olympic trials in Eugene. She barely missed qualifying in the 200 meters, but the U.S. government's boycott of that year's games made it a moot point. The trials weren't a complete bust, though, because it was there that Griffith met Al Joyner, the man who would become her husband. A triple jumper at that time competing for Arkansas State, Joyner was the brother of fellow track star Jackie Joyner-Kersee, who was also competing in those trials. At the following Summer Olympics in 1984, Griffith won the silver in the 200 meters and Joyner earned gold in the triple jump. When the two married in 1987 and Florence added Joyner's last name to her own, the moniker FloJo was officially launched. The 200 meters was FloJo's best event, and at this point, she began to also focus on the 100 meters. Less than a month before that year's Olympic trials, she ran 10.89 into a slight headwind, making her the second fastest American of all time after Evelyn Ashford. The 1988 U.S. Olympic track and field trials were held in Indianapolis. And fun fact, this is where Calvin Smith, who previously held the world record in the men's 100 meters and was a guest on the third episode of this podcast, qualified for his second Olympic team. Florence Griffith-Joyner was set to compete at the trials in both the 100 and 200 meters, with the 100 happening first. There were 4 rounds: the preliminary heats, the quarterfinals, the semis, and the finals. And then the top 3 from that final round would represent the U.S. at the Olympics. But FloJo did not save her speed for the finals. She ran an incredible time of 10.60 seconds in her very first heat, which would have been a world record itself, except that it was wind-aided, so it did not count. It was in the quarterfinals when FloJo stunned the world, running a blistering 10.49 seconds. And this time, the wind level was legal. This was a new world record by more than a quarter second, and FloJo wasn't even finished. In the semis, she finished in 10.70 seconds, and in the finals, she took the win and made her second Olympic team with a time of 10.61 seconds. Her time in those 3 rounds at the U.S. Olympic track trials in Indianapolis were the 3 fastest 100-meter sprints run by any woman at history at that point. And her world record of 10.49 seconds still stands today. At the Olympics in Seoul later that fall, FloJo ended up winning gold medals in the 100-meter, 200-meter, and 4x100-meter, as well as a silver medal in the 4x400-meter. I was still 4 years away from being born, but my parents remember watching those races from their futon in Tempe, Arizona. My mom says it wasn't just FloJo's speed that made her memorable, it was her presence. Her look was revolutionary for that time, and so was just how unapologetic she was at being completely herself. FloJo retired from professional running in 1989, became a mom to daughter Mary Ruth in 1990, and spent the rest of the 90s dabbling in all sorts of ventures, including designing the NBA uniforms for the Indiana Pacers, acting in a couple of TV shows, and serving as co-chair of President Clinton's Council on Physical Fitness. There's no reason to think that Florence Griffith-Joyner wouldn't have continued following her eclectic interests and being absolutely confident in her individuality into old age. Unfortunately, she did not get the chance, dying in her sleep in 1998 of a form of epileptic seizure at just 38 years old. FloJo's 100-meter record has stood for 37 years, but a few women have come close. At the Tokyo Olympics in 2021, Jamaican Elaine Thompson-Herah won the gold in the 100 meters with a time of 10.61 seconds. Then a month later, at the Prefontaine Classic, won the event in 10.54 seconds. She was the first woman to get within even a tenth of a second of FloJo's record. Another Jamaican, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, medaled in the 100 meters at 4 consecutive Olympics from 2008 to 2021. Fraser-Pryce ran a career best of 10.60 seconds at Diamond League meet shortly before the 2021 Olympics. And on the American side, there is Sha'Carri Richardson, whose unique fashion is sometimes compared to FloJo's. Richardson set her current PR of 10.65 at World Champs in Budapest 2023 and went on to win 2 medals at the 2024 Olympics in Paris. So it's likely that the day will come when FloJo's record will fall. Al Joyner said that when his wife was asked about how she would feel if that happened, FloJo said, quote, "She would be sad but happy, because records are meant to be broken, but that it would be like losing a best friend." And that's fair, and probably the most honest answer an athlete could give to that question. The truth is, though, that the record books only tell part of the story. Someone or several someones might log faster times, but there will never be another FloJo. This weekend, I'll be at Brooks headquarters in Seattle for our annual retreat, and the theme for the party one of the nights is Retro Runners. I am going as FloJo, complete with the one-legged speed suit, and we'll post a photo on Instagram so y'all can check it out. And that is today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, make sure to like, follow, subscribe, comment, share, send to everyone you've ever met, and then join me tomorrow for a conversation with one of the best middle distance runners of the 90s and fastest woman who ever That's the lived. Term, right? Like for the unmatched 2000s, the aughts. Okay, best middle distance runners of the 90s and the 2000s. That first sentence awkward. Anyways, I am your host, running up that Hillary, and celebrated breaking today in running history. The world's women record. What is that? What even is that? Breaking the world. Why is this so hard for me? Why is this so difficult?
get through.
Also, this is the second time of me like restarting because the first one was so bad. I just ended the entire recording. And then I started and I did it again. So that was really cool. All right, let's get to it. I've been talking for over 30 years and I can't seem to do it right. At that track, at that time, Arkansas. And Joyner earned gold in the triple. Oh my God. Oh God, this is so bad. Why is it this sentence? Why can't I do this? Okay. I'm gonna separate this into 2 paragraphs. Maybe okay, there we go. Let's see if I can do this. Okay.